All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about DaRon Bland's injury for the Dallas Cowboys and just kind of, talk about the impact of that. So, um, he sustained a stress fracture in his foot, scheduled to undergo surgery, and he's expected to be out 6 to 8 weeks. He was experiencing some discomfort on Wednesday, and imaging revealed that it was indeed a fracture. So he's going to be out, and yeah, it's a devastating blow to this defense. Last year, 14 interceptions. Well, not last year, but 14 interceptions over his first two NFL seasons, and he had a league best 9 interceptions in 2023. And he said, and when it came to the pick sixes, that's really what I wanted to bring up. He set an NFL record by returning 5 of those for touchdowns. An impressive year by him, and the Cowboys defense needed that because you had Trayvon Diggs, go down last year. He didn't play at all because he tore his ACL. But now you get Diggs back, and now you lose DaRon Bland for an extended period of time. Now Bland's not going to be out for the whole season, but losing a guy like him is, that's devastating for this defense, for this Cowboys team. And it was going to be Bland and Trayvon Diggs as their two top corners. Now they have a fifth-round pick, Kalen Carson, and Andrew Booth, who was acquired via trade. Those are the potential replacements for DaRon Bland. So, yeah, just that's not what you want. And especially, going into this week 1 matchup against the Browns where, you got Amari Cooper and they brought in Jerry Jeudy. There's going to be some tough receivers that you're going to have to go up against in this game coming up. I know, some people have their, opinions on Jerry Jeudy, and, like I said, I've talked about him and how we're expecting more out of him coming out of college. But still, I mean, I still think he's a threat. Especially coming in and, he's not the number one receiver. Amari Cooper is. And, Amari Cooper going up against his former team, that's going to be fun to watch. So that should be a very interesting game. That's one of the best games of the weekend next week is Browns Cowboys. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But, yeah, that's just losing DaRon Bland is going to hurt that defense. Now, I don't think it's going to be, where they're just going to be totally off. But that's a key piece on your defense, and it's going to be hard to replace. So Cowboys are just going to have to piece it together until he comes back. And what's unfortunate for them is they could have went out if this player didn't get signed. If Stephon Gilmore didn't end up signing with the Vikings, they could have signed him. But there's some other veteran free agents that maybe they could go after, because I think that's something they could potentially do, is bring in a veteran, because I know he's not in his prime, but Patrick Peterson is still unsigned. You could bring him in on a cheap deal until DaRon Bland comes back. 34 years old, but yeah, still remains unsigned. But maybe that's someone you potentially bring in. They probably will bring in a veteran. I would think they're going to do that, but that's just me. But I also wanted to get into Trey Lance's performance over the weekend, because I know that was making news. Now, he had 5 interceptions and 2 fumbles. Now, he didn't lose both of them, but that was rough. That was rough. And I think that also makes it more. I mean, I don't want to overreact because, again, it is a preseason game, but 5 interceptions in a preseason game is rough. But I think that also makes it a little bit more imperative to try to get Dak done, get him signed for a long term extension. Because look, Cooper Rush is a backup quarterback, and I did bring up like, okay, maybe they keep Trey Lance around if Dak ends up walking, but Trey Lance is going to do that. Then I'm out on that. But then again, you could say, well, the backups were in, but I don't know. It's just that's tough to do, and he did that. So he could learn from it, and not to say like I'll bring up a positive too. You see the ability because he had, I think it was like a 45-yard rushing touchdown. So you see there's ability there, but again, that doesn't eliminate the 5 picks that he ended up throwing. Yeah, so he finished 33 of 49, 323 yards, 1 touchdown, 5 interceptions. He had 90 yards rushing and a 46-yard touchdown run. So, again, you see the ability, being able to take off with the ball. But, yeah, the 5 picks, yeah, you can't have that. So, again, I don't want to overreact, but you also got to be like, that's not good. So, that's just something else to think about as well. But, yeah, there's a lot of people that are just not optimistic about the Cowboys going into the year. And, you got players that are looking for new contracts. Like Dak, obviously, is going to be there week 1. But, CeeDee Lamb, his status is, still up in the air. But, Adam Schefter said it. CeeDee Lamb is not missing week 1. There's no way he's missing week 1. I'd be surprised. But if that ends up happening, if this leaks into the regular season and he doesn't play, if he's missing actual games, that's really going to affect the Cowboys. Because you look at their depth outside of CeeDee Lamb. Yeah, you got Brandon Cooks, but Brandon Cooks is, he's past his prime. Still a productive receiver, don't get me wrong, but you got Brandon Cooks. But then after that, it's who else do you got? You got Jacob Ferguson. Now, I just mean in terms of receivers. You got Jacob Ferguson, who's a decent tight end, and, I speak very highly on the Cowboys and them always having a good tight end each and every year, whether it's Jason Witten or Dalton Schultz, Blake Jarwin. Now, I only say Blake Jarwin because every time he played against the Giants, he would score a touchdown. Now, he had that 3-touchdown game, several years ago now, which is, crazy to think how fast time flies. That's really a thing of the past. But now you have Jacob Ferguson. They always seem to have good tight ends. But when you look at their receivers, who's going to step up? They like Kevontae Turpin, but they're kind of thin there. And that's really what the problem is for this Cowboys team is going into the season, is their depth. Because if you start losing guys and guys are holding out like CeeDee Lamb is, who's going to step up? Is that depth going to be able to step up and keep them sustainable until they get their full team back? They're able to agree to a long-term extension with CeeDee Lamb. When they get DaRon Bland back, that's why they might have to go out and, bring in a veteran cornerback. Maybe try to get a veteran receiver. These are things that could be coming. I mean, if CeeDee Lamb comes back, look, you agree to an extension with him, and he comes back, that's solved. But DaRon Bland's different. You got to wait because he's hurt. So it's going to be interesting to see, what happens. But also, what are we expecting out of this running game? Like, that's something that could be an issue for the Cowboys is their running game, because you have all these running backs, but who's going to step up and be the lead guy? You don't have Tony Pollard anymore. You bring back Zeke. But Zeke is not the same player. He's not. I think, in short yardage situations, yeah, he can be productive. He can get you those rushing touchdowns in fantasy. But in terms of being the lead back for the Cowboys, I just don't see it. So, let me know what you guys think, though, about the Cowboys, the current state of the Cowboys right now. Because there's a lot going on with them. When it comes to the contracts, and now you got one of their top corners getting hurt. And, look, just because they're going into this game against the Browns and all this is going on, that they got no shot, I think this is a game they could definitely win, of course. But, that being at home, the Browns, and they got a really good defense, it's going to be a tough game. But on the other side, you got a quarterback who's coming back from injury. The Cowboys defense could take advantage of that, despite what's going on with, obviously, like I said, DaRon Bland getting hurt, and we'll see. But let me know what you guys think, though, on the Cowboys. And before we go to break, just want to remind you guys again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Go to the Super Chat icon, and by helping out the show, your comment will get highlighted. It'll be a Super Chat. I'll acknowledge it during the live broadcast, and it just makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day. And, of course, the alternative way to help out the show is going to the link. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Like I said, we appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day. It helps us out a ton as we give you guys content throughout the week. So when we come back from our next break, we will then discuss, some trades, extensions, also some injury updates as well. So that is what we will do when we come back from our next break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.